Shortly after the turn of the 20th century, Carl Fisher and his partners went to work on a test track to advance the automobile. Their finalized circuit in 1909 was a 2.5-mile oval just northwest of downtown Indianapolis that soon began hosting racing contests. Now, nearly a quarter of the way through the 21st century, the surface, the grandstands, the speeds, and much more have changed, but the path remains the same. The Brickyard comes to life again today as the pursuit of immortality begins for the 108th Indianapolis 500. It is dry for the moment. It is overcast, 65 degrees. There was a light mist just moments ago that put us on a slight hold, but we are scheduled to have cars roll in 2 minutes, and it should be fast and furious because unfortunately it is coming today. The question is when. Kevin Lee and James Hinchcliffe on the 9th floor of the world-famous pagoda. Are you ready?
I am ready. I am ready for opening day. I'm ready to start following some of these exciting storylines that we have brewing for the month of May. One of them, obviously, this guy right here, 6-time champion, single-time 500 winner. But, man, he's come so close so many times, especially recently. And I got early picks, man. I've had a lot of people ask me who I like coming into the month of May. Scott Dixon's my number one.
That's a good pick. There are many possibilities. For more, let's head to pit lane, and we start with Georgia Hannaberry.
Well, guys, first and foremost, it feels so good to be back at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Happy month of May. Happy Indianapolis 500 practice. I'm not going to jinx it yet, but as we say, we're in a holding pattern for some missing, and I'm not going to jinx it. I think we're going to get some running in, but the first thing that comes to my mind is how valuable this running is going to be for some of the rookies, for Kyle Larson, even for Joseph Newgarden, who's our reigning Indianapolis 500 champion, who's going to be getting to know some new team members as well. So these laps, every single lap around the Indianapolis Motor Speedway is going to be so valuable today. Dylan Welch.
And even with that rain coming, Georgia, for people like Kyle Larson, it is going to be extra critical to get laps in. Remember the Indianapolis test here just a month or so ago, that was abbreviated as well. So a day less of testing and practice for the rookies. So for Larson, just trying to maximize the on-track time today is going to be ultra critical, trying to put himself around some other cars on the racetrack, which I think we're going to have, guys. There should be a lot of cars on the racetrack today, maybe an abbreviated day, so we're going to get some running in here early.
As we see cars roll, it is officially May. The green light is out, and cars are on track at the Speedway.
Let's go from Indy. A parade of up to 34 cars heading out on the world-famous 2.5-mile oval with 1 yard of bricks, signifying the original 3.2 million paving bricks added in 1910.
Is that all it was? Just 3.2?
Luckily, they had a few spares. Replacements throughout the year.
I'm sure you got a few in your office at home.
I don't. I was Rutledge Wood dug up some with permission a few years ago,
of course,
and gave me one, and I left it sitting on a golf cart after the race in haste to catch my ride. So I still need a brick.
All right, we got to get Kevin a brick. That's the new campaign we've got launched. Riding on board with Will Power here, doing a little install check. One of the necessities for these teams right now is go around, make sure all the hoses are connected properly, that the car feels okay. Make sure the driver fit is right. It's all these little things you're going to be working on throughout the course of the day. These drivers are going to be spending an awful lot of time in these cockpits, Kev. You want to make sure that your seat's comfy, that the bells are adjusted, the belts are adjusted correctly, your head padding, the helmet hose, everything that goes into making the driver comfortable in the cockpit for 500 miles. You want to get kind of slowly adjusted and tuned in over this practice week.
So, Hinch, something that I found kind of interesting here, and I've actually heard a couple teams doing this. A couple teams are checking the radio volume. And so I guess my question to you is a lot of these guys have new helmets for the Indy 500, kind of, 500 specific helmets. Sometimes you got to wear in the padding, right, before the speakers kind of come through a little bit clearer. Is that maybe what's happening here with some of these guys that are just trying to get the volume of the radio kind of dialed in?
Yeah, it's all those things, Dylan. It's a great point. New lids, they need a little bit of time to kind of break in. It's like a new pair of sneakers. You want to do a short run before you go start training for your marathon, and a new pair of shoes. A new lid's kind of the same way. with the volume. You know, again, these are brand new cars for a lot of these drivers compared to what they were driving at the Grand Prix, so it's a different radio. You just want to make sure those levels are correct. You might run the radio at a different volume for an oval than you will at a road course, just because of the constant high RPM and the wind noise that you get on an oval is usually a little bit louder. So yeah, all these tiny little things that just kind of add up, and this is a great opportunity for teams and drivers to sort that stuff out. This guy here was there, Kyle Kirkwood. He actually won the whole event outright on the main track. So Kirkwood was the karting winner of the big karting race. So the GP didn't go his way on Saturday, but the real race that mattered that weekend, Stop and Go Foundation's first annual karting event at SIK, he was the big winner.
Kyle has not had a fantastic start to the season, but he's not had any awful days. So that keeps him in the mix in the championship. I think people might be surprised to see him 8th in the championship with just one finish better than that. 7th at Long Beach, but 10th, 7th, 10th, 11th. He's kind of made what was available so far this season. He was strong here last year at Indy. Had a lot of pace until he was collected late in the race.
Obviously a pretty young career here at the Speedway. You know, only two attempts so far. One of them, like you say, ended up in the fence, 17th on the other. But on a day when it went sideways, well, went upside down for Kyle Kirkwood, it went pretty well for the driver of the number 2, Dylan.
That's right. Joseph Newgarden, defending Indianapolis 500 winner, is getting ready to go back out here. So, elephant in the room is you guys have a new voice in your ear this month that Jonathan Duga just announced this morning is going to be your strategist. So, for these early days of practice, how critical is it for you just to get out here and just kind of familiarize yourself with the new process and the new voices?
I think a lot of it will be the same. You know, it's definitely it's different for me having a unique voice. Certainly missing Tim. You know, I like having him in my ear, but we got a great team here with the 2-car. A lot of it's, you know, holistically the same. We're going to be going through the same process that we always do, and you know, it's great to be back here. I'm glad we had that test last month. That always helps things, and you know, feeling excited to be here. I mean, it's difficult to not get excited about this place when you roll in the front gates, and it's a beautiful track. I think we're going to have some fast cars with Team Penske this month, and we're really focused, very, very focused on trying to get through qualifying and then having a good race.
We have been here, obviously, as you said, at the test, but what did it feel like this morning driving through here as the defending 500 winner?
Yeah, it's been, I mean, it's more than this morning. You know, it's been, I think it's been the whole year has been a unique experience, you know, one that I'm incredibly thankful for. Just, it's an incredible place. It's hard to describe to people if they've never been to this track. You know, it has a special feeling and a special place in motorsports. You just don't think you can beat the history, and, you know, when you win the race, it just completely changes your perspective. So it's been very cool to win it and to be here with this group trying to defend our title.
It's cold, kind of cloudy, kind of windy today. How much can you learn? How applicable may it be to the rest of the week?
There's always something to learn. You know, if these are going to be conditions at a different point in the month, then, you know, we're going to be bookmarking that. So I think every day is important. You know, I hope we get a little bit of running in here. We got an issue we're diagnosing right now, but if we get an hour in or so before the rain, that'll be great to have something to look at today, and then we'll see how the rest of the week shakes up.
What are you working on? What is the issue? Can you say?
What'd you say?
What's the issue? What are you working on?
We just got a sensor that's off right now, so we're just trying to take our time, and you know, we don't want to run the car without everything fully going, and just want to be safe.
Thanks, Joseph. That's why they do the install laps, guys, just like you were saying.
It's always funny how much panic we tend to see. Whoa, Kyle Kirkwood clipping the apex curve down there in turn 2. That was a near miss. It doesn't look like much from the onboard camera, but that is not something you want to be doing running in dirty air behind another car. As he runs the wheel tracks of his teammate from 2022 Indy 500 winner Marcus Ericsson. Marcus dragging his feet a little bit there in 4. Going to want Kyle to go by here. Try to get some time running in the draft himself. So these cars already putting the effort in. You see Kyle immediately going to the weight jacker, adding some right front weight once he goes from in the dirty air behind Marcus to the clean air out front. It's one of the things that drivers are going to spend a lot of time working on, practicing, getting back into the rhythm of making those adjustments. And up front, some big times already, Cam. 225s from both Takuma Sato and Marco Andretti.
2 one-offs making their season debut. A 2-time winner, Takuma Sato, back with Ray Hall Letterman Lanigan Racing, where he won Indy 500 number 2, and Marco Andretti, who has come oh so close. As Ericsson goes around Kirkwood, and let's go back to moments ago.
All right, so this is coming through 4. You see some traffic in front of Marcus Ericsson. Actually, coming through 2. Traffic in front of Marcus Ericsson. Stayed off the curb on that one. As Pato and Dixon have joined the fight. Joined a little bit of running here in the groups. This is what it's all about at this point in the weekend, Kev. You want to just get your car a little bit sorted. And again, we had the open test, but not as many laps turned in the open test as anybody would have liked. That's kind of to tune your car a little bit, individually test some of the things you may have developed over the offseason. But at the end of the day, you win the race, you know, by having a good car in traffic. And so it's immediately all these drivers are jumping into that traffic running as Dixon goes all the way up to a 229 right away, signaling right there that he's coming into the pits by dropping those left side tires below the white line on the back straight. Dixon and Andretti trading fast times, 228.399 for Marco. Big speeds, but you expect that when the temperature's cool like this. We have right now an ambient temperature of just 65 degrees and the track 74. That gives these cars so much grip and so much power.
And this is normally a rookie session. We should explain why there were 2 sessions. That's why the schedule was put out this way. But every rookie has gone through rookie orientation, either last fall in a test or in the April open test. So it was open up to all cars.
You see the Meyer-Shank group running around. You've got one of the rookies in that group, Tom Blomqvist. You've got one of the refreshers in that group in Elio Castroneves. And then, of course, the full-time charge in Felix Rosenqvist. You see those 2 cars behind there, the 2 full-season drivers look pretty similar. The big differentiator, those yellow end fences on the front of, I believe, Felix has the yellow ones. Let's try and get a closer look on that.
That's part of today, too. Yes,
Yeah.
It is Felix Rosenqvist is identifying cars. We've got a few new paint schemes and looks for the Indy 500.
Swedish yellow on the end fences of Rosie's car. So that's how you can differentiate him and Tom Blomqvist.
That's good. We haven't had that in other races. The side pods have been different colors much of the time, but those are sometimes difficult to spot coming at you.
And this is great, man. I mean, for Felix to be able to be out there pounding around with a 4-time champion who happens to be your teammate, who actually kind of happens to be your boss as a team owner now in Meyer-Shank. But for a driver like Rosie to be able to get out there and just drive around behind Elio, start to watch, really observe where he positions the car, how he positions the car, how he lines up passes. This is the kind of invaluable experience that you can get by being on track right now and running around with somebody like Elio.
Brand new car for Elio as well. That's a new chassis. Did he tell us that Blomqvist has his chassis?
I believe Blomqvist has his. Rosenqvist has Simon's from last year. And the boss insisted on all new stuff. He knows what he did to his old car at certain tracks last year. So he decided to go for brand new equipment. And look, if you're Jim Meyer and Mike Shank, you're going to want to put the best stuff underneath the driver that has the best chance of winning this race. And that's in no way any disrespect to Tom or Felix, but you've got one of the greatest ever around Indianapolis Motor Speedway in this team. You're going to stack the deck. And what I mean by that is every team has a collection of parts. And there are so many parts that affect the outright speed of these cars here at Indy. Everything from the front wings, the rear wings, the under wings, the floor, and uprights, gearboxes, all those things. The difference between them can be marginal, but if you add up the difference between all these different things, it can be a decent amount of speed. And so you're going to try to stack the deck a little bit in the best way you can.
And here is the NASCAR Cup champion, fresh off running a winged sprint car and going upside down last night at Kokomo. Kyle Larson, debut in Indy cars and at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Still getting up to speed. This is just essentially an install lap in and out for Larson. who will be busy, to put it mildly.
Racing sprint cars, testing Indy cars, racing cup cars. He's kind of doing it all over the next little while.
Downstairs to Georgia.
Absolutely here with Ricardo Juncos. Happy month of May. Happy Indianapolis 500 practice. Obviously, there's a notion that today is going to be shortened a little bit, but at the end of the day today, what are you trying to accomplish?
Well, I think we need to make laps also on the open test before we have a lot of rain. So the rain is coming, so it's very important for us to make laps and see if we can get good feedback from the drivers. I think it's all about driver mindset to start the month of May in a good way, you know.
How do you feel the Juncos Hollinger Racing Oval program has improved over the offseason?
I think we're doing really good, to be honest. We are fast. I think we're showing the pace in every race weekend. Consistently, I think we need to focus a little bit more on qualifying, make sure we nailed everything on the red tires or green tires, which is a little bit off the window, I think. But it's difficult. IndyCar is so competitive, so everything has to be right. So I think we are knocking on the door for good results with both drivers. Now we focus on May and Indy 500, but then after, I think we need to start making sure we put everything together for that quality lap, right?
Thank you, Ricardo.
Right, thank you.
Thank you. Booth?
Uh-oh, yellow flag, and it is for moisture. Hopefully it's like what we saw just before 9 o'clock, and it's missed. And that delay was literally only 5 minutes. So hopefully it's the same, and we can get some more running in before that big blob gets to us.
Well, I wish that it had just missed us completely. But unfortunately, you see umbrellas coming out on pit lane. From where we're sitting up in the pagoda, it is cloudy, it is dark up here, but I don't see any rain on our windows. Oh, no, I lied.
I don't like an umbrella, Al.
No, don't love that.
That's probably more than missed.
You see a few drops actually there on the onboard camera of Scott Dixon. Never ceases to surprise me how much right hand down on the steering wheel Scott Dixon runs on ovals.
You weren't that far.
I was not
you
that
don't think
far.
anybody else is that far.
I think Pelot does it just because he got in the team and said, just give me what Dixon has,
Okay.
which is smart. I always liked a little bit of right hand down. Of course, you see how the steering wheel isn't straight when he's going straight. He intentionally offsets it to be a little bit cocked to the right, so that way when you're turning in the corners, it's a little bit more of a normal positioning.
There is one driver with a little extra attention here in the month of May in Indianapolis, and he's downstairs with Dylan Welch.
And that, of course, is Kyle Larson. Yes, a lot of attention down here from fans and media members alike. So I know you got like a couple laps in. I think it's like 150 mile an hour average. So not a ton of speed this morning with the weather conditions and whatnot. But back here for official practice now. How does it feel to just be back here and to kind of be doing it for real now with practice and everything?
Yeah, no, I mean it's good to finally have the Indy 500 here. You know, I've known about this for a couple of years now, so it's been a lot of waiting. But yeah, just happy to get this experience underway and get consecutive days in the car. You know, that's been the toughest thing so far. Is I go months at a time between each time I'm in the car. So obviously weather's getting in the middle of things today, but once we get through today, I think it should be good, and we'll get comfortable with things and learn a lot. So just trying to take things slow to this point, but yeah, I got to try and learn quickly here the next handful of days.
Do you feel yourself kind of getting more comfortable, more just acclimated with the systems and the procedures of doing this? Even if you don't get a ton of laps today, just to be in the car, does it help?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely good still to even at this point, I've gotten more today than I thought I would. So just getting to leave the pit lane a couple times, it was good, all that. So, yeah, but I think, as we get to tomorrow and we get like a clean day of running, I'll be able to learn probably a lot, I would think. So, yeah, I wish I would have got more laps there, but overall I'm still just happy to be here. And I think they said we have like 30 some more hours of practice, so hopefully that's enough time for me.
Well, and that is a different thing than you're used to, obviously, well, on the NASCAR side and then the sprint car side too. It's way more practice. So how do you approach that? I mean, do you go day by day, kind of have a checklist of things you want to do each day, or is that up to the team?
I think for us, like these first few days, I think it's a lot of race running and traffic running and just trying to learn as much as we can with the car and with myself. to get, prepared for the race. And then as we get, I think, to Thursday or Friday, I think that's when you start focusing on qualifying some more. But yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily have like a checklist of things for me. I think that's all just going to naturally kind of pop up as every time I go onto the racetrack. I think something new is going to happen that I learn or figure out or present more questions, stuff to ask about and learn. So yeah, I don't know. It's just literally like every time I leave pit lane, there's like something new that clicks or a question arises. So I'm sure it's going to be the same way these next few days. And then I think then eventually you'll probably get comfortable, and then you can really like, fine tune your brain a little bit to be, more relaxed and stuff. So right now, like everything's happening kind of quickly, like just pit lane stuff. Like it's so busy and like my awareness is super high. But I think like as I get more comfortable with that, like it's just going to become second nature, hopefully. And then, yeah, all the on-track stuff will hopefully be fine. So far, pit lane's been the most stressful thing, IndyCar racing-wise.
You have a lot of good people on your timing stand, obviously, within the team. And I know you've talked to a lot of guys, too, that come from the NASCAR world that have done this, Jimmy and Kurt Busch. What's the best piece of advice you feel like you've gotten in preparation for this?
I don't know. I mean, Tony Kanaan's been the guy that I've talked to a lot. And, I mean, I don't do a good job of like remembering everything, but there's just a lot of stuff that we've talked about as far as like, and again, mostly like pit lane stuff, but even I think qualifying, talking through adjustments. Tony's been really good as far as like I feel like dumbing everything down, and like I think everybody like between media or engineers, like they like make everything such a big deal, and I think Tony's been really good to like just like, nah, no, it's not that big a deal. Like, just calm down, whatever, like, so that's been good. Because yeah, I think it's really easy when you go into something new to overthink things. And I think, like I'm a rookie, so I haven't been a rookie in something in a long time, but I remember being a rookie, like everybody's feeding you all sorts of information. And it's always, a lot of times it's coming from people who've never driven a race car. So it's like, I don't really know what's real or what not, but having Tony and his experience and all that, and like being a racer, I think it's just been really good for me to like just bring things down and all that. So yeah, it's been fun working with him again. I've had experience with him at Ganassi when we did the Rolex stuff. So super good guy and very accomplished here at the Speedway. So I'm gonna learn a lot from him for sure.
Well, it's great to have you here. Good luck the rest of this week and the rest of the month.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm going to enjoy listening to Kyle Larson just talk us through his experience, living a dream. Every race car driver of any discipline, I can't say every, but almost all, have dreamed about doing this, the biggest race in the world. He's clearly talented enough, but he doesn't know what he doesn't know.
And that's just it, and so far between the kind of half day of running we got at the open test and then the 4 laps he's had here today, not even 2 laps he's had here today doing install checks, the conditions are so different than what I expect them to be on race day, and that changes everything. So even what he has already experienced here at the Speedway, I don't want to say it's irrelevant, but it's not even close. I mean, we're just scratching the surface. He's got so many different things he still has to run through, but I do like the point that he made that Tony Kanaan pointed out, which was, yes, this is a big deal. Everything about this is a big deal, but each individual thing you have to go through, it's just driving a race car. When you really break it down, the simple fundamentals are, we're going out there, we're driving race cars. And that's something that Kyle has a lot of experience in, a lot of talent for. And, you can get lost sometimes in the lore of this place and the mystique of this place. But fundamentally, when you put on the helmet, you got to just pretend like it's any other racetrack and you're driving any other race car. And that's something that he's so very good at.
He has the mental aptitude for long races, too. He does that almost every week in Cup. IndyCar drivers don't do that other than the Indianapolis 500 anymore.
He doesn't remember them very well, apparently, but he's good at doing them in the moment, and that's what matters. But yeah, that was one thing. I remember speaking to Montoya when he came back to IndyCar after his stint in NASCAR. He said one of the greatest advantages and one of the biggest things that his time in Cup taught him was how to manage those long-distance races. Yeah. We're down to 1 a year. There were times when I was driving where we had 3 500-mile races. So, you're still doing 3 a year, but in Cup you're doing 15 of these things a year. And even a 400-mile race in Cup takes longer than a 500-mile race in an IndyCar does. And so that experience of managing races, looking at the bigger picture, setting yourself up for that last stint and a half, this is something that he's already well versed in.
There is as much hype and attention and anticipation for Kyle Larson for a newcomer, since Fernando Alonso, and before that, I think maybe Nigel Mansell as the reigning Formula One world champion.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there was a lot of hype around Jimmy when he came, but he'd already kind of stopped on the Cup side, so it wasn't the same sort of crossover experience that you're getting here. Fernando was still racing in Formula One the first time he came here. So yeah, I'd agree with that, Kev. It is a big deal. This is a global motorsports superstar, and for him to be taking the time to and having the interest in making the effort to do this is huge.
So we have seen about a half hour of running. Not everyone has been on track. 29 cars have a time as far as clicking off the time, and Dixon is the fastest so far, already over 229 miles an hour. We've had, I'd say 26 that have put up a speed, but even Renus VK really just one lap, not quite at speed. Others diagnosing some issues. We heard about Joseph Newgarden's sensor issues. Some have not made it out on track yet, and are hoping to do so before the big rain comes. So the track is damp, but not lost at this point.